Blake Lively steps into the spotlight with that familiar radiant smile, and it feels like watching someone who never really left the girl next door roots, even though she has walked through countless movie premieres, fashion shows, and global campaigns. She always carries an approachable warmth that makes fans feel like they are part of her journey. And when we think about her career from the early days of Gossip Girl to building a respected name in Hollywood beyond television, it is impossible not to marvel at the way she reinvented herself time and again, turning every challenge into a stepping stone to something brighter. She is not only an actress, but also a creative visionary, a fashion icon admired for her bold red carpet looks, and a devoted partner and mother who balances family life with a thriving career. And speaking of fashion, it is fascinating how celebrities around the world use clothing not just as self-expression, but as a language of empowerment and inspiration. Take Rihanna, for example, who transformed from a young pop sensation with unforgettable chart-topping hits into a global mogul, commanding the worlds of fashion, beauty, and business with Fenty. She proved that inclusivity and style go hand in hand, and she used her platform to bring representation to those who rarely saw themselves in mainstream campaigns. And fans love her not just for her music, but for her courage to redefine the rules. And if Rihanna shows us how fashion and entrepreneurship can be revolutionary, then we can look at someone like Zendaya, who from her Disney Channel roots became a symbol of elegance, maturity, and versatility. Every time she steps onto a carpet, styled by the legendary Law Roach, she delivers looks that tell a story, looks that merge old Hollywood glamour with modern innovation. And the journey is not just about clothes. It is about resilience and authenticity, because celebrities often face unimaginable pressure to meet expectations. Yet those who rise above it leave behind a legacy that inspires across generations. And speaking of rising above, we cannot ignore Lady Gaga, whose career is a dazzling reminder of what happens when fearlessness meets artistry, starting with provocative outfits and bold performances. She shocked the world. But beneath the spectacle, there was always depth, passion, and the voice of an artist determined to speak truths. Her Super Bowl performance, her Oscar-winning moment for A Star Is Born, and her tireless charity work for mental health awareness remind us that fame is not only about applause, but about creating impact. And that theme continues when we look at someone like Keanu Reeves, the internet's beloved humble superstar, who despite decades in the industry maintains a grounded kindness that fans celebrate. His generosity, quiet acts of giving, and genuine respect for others turned him into more than an action hero. He became a cultural icon of integrity. And when we shift to sports, the celebrity landscape shows us resilience in a different light. Like Serena Williams, who transcended the world of tennis by not only dominating the courts, but also becoming a voice for women in sports business and motherhood, her legacy stretches beyond Grand Slam titles into a blueprint for strength, determination, and grace under fire. And she shares that spirit with countless others around the world, from Priyanka Chopra balancing Bollywood and Hollywood, to BTS bringing Korean music and culture to a massive international stage, showing us how boundaries are meant to be crossed and walls are meant to come down. And in these stories, what keeps us listening is the reminder that every celebrity we admire faced obstacles and doubts, but found ways to shine through them. And when you think about Robert Downey Jr., the comeback king of Hollywood, who went from personal struggles to embodying Iron Man in a way no one else could, it feels like witnessing a miracle of perseverance that inspires people to believe in second chances. And his journey shows us why fans connect so deeply, because celebrities who open their vulnerabilities show us our own reflection in them. And speaking of reflections, Jennifer Lopez has reflected reinvention throughout her entire career, from dancer to singer to actress to businesswoman. Every chapter of her life proving that limits do not exist if you carry ambition and work ethic in abundance. And her Super Bowl halftime show with Shakira was not just entertainment. It was a cultural celebration that reached across generations and continents. And these performances highlight how celebrities connect people around the globe through shared joy and awe. Now take Beyoncé, a name synonymous with excellence and discipline. She does not simply perform. She creates experiences, every album a statement, every tour a movement, every public appearance carefully crafted to empower and uplift. Yet even with that precision, fans admire her humanity, her love for family, her advocacy for equality. And that balance between legend and person is what keeps her timeless. And as we glide from music to film to sports, one constant remains: the emotional bond fans build with these figures, because in many ways, celebrities are mirrors of our hopes and possibilities. Think about Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who went from wrestling arenas to Hollywood superstardom, not through shortcuts, but through relentless drive and unshakable charisma he embodies. Strength, but also vulnerability. Sharing his struggles with mental health and his deep gratitude for fans and family, and that honesty makes his achievements feel like victories we all share. And if we want to talk about international stars, then look at someone like Lupita Nyong'o, whose Oscar-winning performance put her in the global spotlight. But her consistent advocacy for representation, self-love, and authenticity makes her influence enduring, and while she dazzles on red carpets, her greatest contribution may be the confidence she instills in those who see themselves finally reflected in someone so celebrated, and that feeling of being seen matters, because it transforms admiration into empowerment. And empowerment is exactly what Oprah Winfrey has been gifting the world for decades. Her journey from a difficult childhood to becoming one of the most influential women on earth is perhaps the ultimate example of turning pain into power, and every interview, every speech, every charitable act is a reminder of how much positive change one individual can spark. And as we continue across these stories, we see a thread: resilience, generosity, creativity, and above all, humanity. Because while the world of celebrities can seem glamorous at the surface, the real magic lies in the journeys underneath. Journeys filled with laughter, tears, setbacks, comebacks, and the kind of authenticity that makes us cheer for them. Not as unreachable stars, but as people who remind us of what is possible. And when you think of Tom Hanks, you think of warmth, trustworthiness, and an almost familial presence on screen. His career has given us unforgettable characters, but his off-screen humility and compassion cement his place as America's dad, and that kind of connection is rare, yet deeply cherished. And around the world, there are countless similar figures, from Jackie Chan, blending action with comedy and philanthropy, to Shakira using her music platform to build schools for children in Colombia, proving that influence can become infrastructure. And when fans cheer, it is not just for a performance, it is for the humanity behind it. And speaking of humanity, one cannot overlook Taylor Swift, who has crafted one of the most fascinating celebrity journeys of modern times. Starting as a teenage country singer with a guitar and a dream, she faced rejection, skepticism, and endless public scrutiny. Yet she turned every challenge into fuel, reinventing her sound and her story with each album and creating a connection with fans so personal that her concerts feel like family gatherings. She writes lyrics that capture universal emotions: love, heartbreak, resilience, and triumph. And those words have become anthems for millions who see their own lives reflected in her songs. And beyond the music, she has stood up for artists, spoken out on important issues, and consistently used her influence to spark positive change. And her success reminds us that celebrities are not just entertainers. They are cultural architects, shaping conversations and inspiring entire generations. And when you think about someone like Leonardo DiCaprio, his journey shows us how fame can be leveraged not just for accolades, but for advocacy. Known first for his heartthrob status, he evolved into one of the most respected actors of his era, while simultaneously becoming a leading voice in environmental activism. His speeches, his documentaries, his foundation all point toward a desire to protect the planet and future generations. And this dedication reminds fans that greatness extends beyond talent. It is about responsibility and vision. And that vision is something we see in countless figures worldwide, like Malala Yousafzai, who, though not a traditional celebrity, became a global icon through her courage and advocacy for education. Her presence alongside stars at events and campaigns shows how celebrity culture can blend with activism to amplify critical messages. And when fans witness figures like her standing beside Hollywood icons, it demonstrates the unifying power of influence across fields and industries. And circling back to film, we can look at the ever-evolving career of Angelina Jolie, who once captured headlines for her personal life, but ultimately redefined herself as a humanitarian diplomat and dedicated mother, traveling to refugee camps using her voice to spotlight global crises and reminding us that stardom can become service. Her story is mirrored in others like Emma Watson, who stepped beyond the legacy of Harry Potter to become a global advocate for gender equality with the He for She campaign, proving that fame can be a megaphone for meaningful change. And fans admire her, not just for the characters she played, but for the courage she showed in stepping into new roles off-screen. And speaking of courage, we cannot ignore Chadwick Boseman, whose portrayal of Black Panther was more than a role. It was a revolution. He gave the world a hero who looked like millions who had rarely seen themselves represented in such powerful ways. And even as he privately battled illness, he gave performances filled with strength, dignity, and passion, leaving behind a legacy that transcends film and lives on, as inspiration for all who dream of creating something larger than themselves. And this blending of art and impact brings us naturally to figures like Elton John, whose decades-long career has combined musical brilliance with tireless philanthropy, particularly in the fight against HIV and AIDS, showing us that longevity in celebrity is not just about reinvention, but also about consistency, in purpose and giving back. And if Elton's music is timeless, then Adele's voice is one of the most soulful symbols of resilience in our time. Her journey from small venues to global superstardom is anchored in authenticity and vulnerability. She writes and sings with a rawness that connects across languages and cultures, and her humility keeps fans close, making them feel like they are part of her story. And these intimate connections are echoed by Ed Sheeran, whose rise from street performances to stadium tours shows the power of perseverance and storytelling, and fans love him not just because his songs are beautiful, but because his persona remains grounded and approachable, proving that even the biggest stages cannot erase humble beginnings. And speaking of humble beginnings, Jennifer Lawrence went from a small-town girl to an Oscar-winning actress while maintaining a relatability that fans cherish. She stumbled, laughed, and spoke honestly on red carpets, turning awkward moments into viral treasures and showing that imperfections can be the very things that make a celebrity beloved. And this honesty is something fans find equally endearing in someone like Chris Pratt, whose career transformation from comedic side character to blockbuster action star embodies how persistence and adaptability can rewrite one's destiny. And if adaptability is a theme, then Madonna must be mentioned, because no one has reinvented themselves as consistently and daringly as she has decade after decade. She shifted sounds, styles, and personas, remaining not just relevant, but iconic. And this constant reinvention paved the way for artists who followed, reminding the world that boundaries are meant to be broken. And while Madonna represents evolution, someone like Celine Dion represents enduring passion. Her voice has carried audiences through generations, and her emotional performances especially. Moments like singing "My Heart Will Go On" at global events have become cultural touchstones that unite people in shared feeling, and music has always been a thread connecting the world through celebrity. And no example shows this better than BTS, the South Korean group, who through relentless effort, artistry, and fan dedication transcended language barriers to become one of the most influential bands in history. Their army of fans is not just an audience, it is a global family bound by music, messages of self-love, and community. And this kind of connection proves that celebrity is not confined to geography. It is a global phenomenon that thrives on shared emotion and shared dreams. And when we turn back to Hollywood, we find someone like Viola Davis, whose powerful performances and equally powerful speeches about representation and opportunity mark her as a force both on and off the screen. She reminds audiences that art is not only about entertainment, but about truth, and her journey from poverty to becoming one of the most respected actresses of our time exemplifies the very essence of perseverance. And speaking of perseverance, few stories resonate like that of Michael Jordan, whose career defined basketball not only through championships, but through cultural impact, with his brand becoming a symbol that crossed boundaries of sport and style. And his relentless drive continues to inspire athletes and dreamers alike. And alongside him, we can look at someone like LeBron James, who carried the weight of expectations from a young age and lived up to them while simultaneously giving back through his foundation and building a school for children in Akron, Ohio, proving that his greatness extends beyond the court and into the lives he touches. And when we look at these athletes, actors, musicians, and leaders together, what emerges is a tapestry of determination, creativity, and compassion that keeps fans captivated and hopeful, because ultimately celebrity stories are human stories amplified and magnified until they touch millions. And as we keep weaving this tapestry of celebrity journeys, we arrive at moments that remind us how unexpected turns often lead to the most powerful chapters, like Matthew McConaughey, who once was typecast in romantic comedies, yet chose to step away from easy roles to reinvent himself through dramatic performances culminating in an Oscar win, and the McConaissance became a symbol of courage to take risks and trust the process. And that willingness to embrace change connects him to someone like Miley Cyrus, whose evolution from a Disney star into a fearless performer and musician has been a journey of breaking molds. She took criticism, turned it into fuel, and built a career on authenticity, blending vulnerability with bold reinvention. And her story parallels the arc of Demi Lovato, whose openness about struggles with mental health and addiction transformed her into more than a singer. She became an advocate, a beacon of hope for fans who saw their own battles reflected in her. Resilience in this act of sharing the truth is echoed by Selena Gomez, who, despite the glare of constant attention, spoke candidly about lupus, mental health, and personal challenges, while also using her platform to raise awareness and fund causes. Her honesty, combined with her artistry, makes her one of the most relatable and admired celebrities of her generation. And speaking of admired stories, we cannot overlook Michelle Obama, who, while not a celebrity in the traditional Hollywood sense, became a cultural icon through her grace, intelligence, and unwavering advocacy for health education and empowerment. Her memoir, her speeches, her initiatives show us that influence can extend far beyond titles and politics. It can reach into homes, hearts, and classrooms, inspiring millions. And when we think about inspiration, Malala's courage echoes once more, reminding us how global figures can stand shoulder to shoulder, with entertainers proving that celebrity is a wide spectrum unified by impact, and impact is the word that comes to mind when talking about Will Smith, whose decades-long career in music, television, and film shaped culture across eras. His charm, versatility, and energy built a beloved legacy. But what stands out most is his determination to uplift others, and his belief in the power of storytelling to change lives. And storytelling of a different kind shines through in someone like Lin-Manuel Miranda, who with Hamilton redefined what musical theater could be, blending history, hip-hop, and heart to create a cultural phenomenon that resonated worldwide. And his rise from small stages to Broadway superstardom embodies the magic of persistence and creativity. And when art meets persistence, you find someone like Jennifer Hudson, who, after not winning American Idol, went on to become an Academy Award winner and Grammy winner, proving that sometimes setbacks are only redirections to greater success. And this idea of redirection defines Katy Perry too, who faced industry rejection before breaking through with her bold style, colorful performances, and infectious pop anthems. And she turned herself into a global superstar and loving mother while continuing to use her platform for philanthropy. And speaking of boldness, no list would be complete without Nicki Minaj, who carved her path in rap with fearless energy and unapologetic individuality, inspiring countless young women to embrace their power and ambition. And she, like Cardi B, demonstrates how authenticity can turn into influence, with fans embracing them, not just for their music, but for their candor, humor, and raw determination. And determination is something we see in someone like Shah Rukh Khan, often called the King of Bollywood, whose journey from modest beginnings to global cinema dominance is fueled by relentless hard work and charisma. His story shows how celebrity transcends borders, connecting fans from Mumbai to New York, and similar cross-cultural influences found in Jackie Chan, whose blend of martial arts, comedy, and kindness turned him into an international treasure, admired for decades. And his dedication to philanthropy further cements his legacy as more than an entertainer, and philanthropy itself is a core theme when considering celebrities like Chance the Rapper, who has poured millions into education and community programs in Chicago, reminding us that giving back is not a side note, but a central purpose for many, and that purpose is shared by someone like Ellen DeGeneres, who used her platform to spread kindness, laughter, and advocacy for equality, proving that even humor can be a vessel for change. And spreading kindness is also embodied by Dolly Parton, whose decades of music are matched only by her extraordinary philanthropy, from funding literacy programs to donating to vaccine research. Her influence stretches far beyond the stage and has left generations grateful for her generosity. And as we think about generosity, it is impossible not to recall Paul Walker, who even after his passing remains remembered not just for his roles, but for his charitable heart. His legacy, carried on through Reach Out worldwide, continues to touch lives and reminds fans of the human being behind the fame, and that same gentle sincerity is what makes someone like Hugh Jackman beloved across the globe. His ability to embody Wolverine while remaining one of the kindest, most genuine figures in Hollywood has made him a role model for balancing strength with compassion, and compassion also flows through Emma Stone, whose candidness and humor combined with her incredible talent make her journey from small beginnings to Oscar winner feel deeply relatable and heartwarming. And relatability is at the core of why someone like Anne Hathaway has remained admired. She has shown vulnerability in facing criticism, yet continued to shine through memorable roles and charitable efforts, proving that perseverance in the spotlight is about staying true to oneself. And this notion of truth resonates with Samuel L. Jackson, whose path from overcoming personal struggles to becoming one of the most iconic voices and presences in film is a testament to determination and resilience. And his longevity parallels that of Morgan Freeman, whose unmistakable voice and commanding presence have made him a symbol of wisdom and calm, while his career and philanthropy illustrate the lasting power of grace and persistence. And persistence is something that defines Meryl Streep, whose unmatched ability to transform into any character has earned her the title of one of the greatest actors of all time. Yet even with countless awards, she remains humble, generous, and inspiring to aspiring artists everywhere. And the same can be said for Cate Blanchett, who balances art house projects with blockbusters and uses her influence to champion environmental causes, showing that artistry and advocacy can walk hand in hand and hand in hand. Is how fans and celebrities often journey together, building communities around shared passions, whether it is K-pop fandoms, Taylor Swift's Swifties, or Marvel fans. The connection is powerful, and it illustrates how modern celebrity is no longer one-sided. It is a dialogue between artists and their supporters, a constant exchange of energy, inspiration, and gratitude. And when we talk about that dialogue between artists and supporters, one of the most remarkable examples comes from Billie Eilish, whose rise from uploading songs with her brother in a bedroom to winning multiple Grammys shows how new generations of celebrities emerge directly from the connection they build with fans. Her music feels like a diary, her style unapologetically her own. And the way she speaks openly about mental health, body image, and authenticity makes her a role model for millions. And in the same breath, we can celebrate someone like Harry Styles, who after his One Direction fame could have easily faded, but instead crafted a solo career full of artistic risks, bold fashion choices, and kindness that resonates deeply with fans. His ability to embrace fluidity in music and style sends a message of freedom and acceptance that fans around the world embrace. And that spirit of acceptance flows into the work of Lil Nas X, who burst onto the scene with a viral hit but proved he was more than a moment by blending humor, vulnerability, and unapologetic authenticity in his art and activism, creating space for representation in ways pop culture had rarely seen before. And speaking of breaking barriers, Janelle Monáe shines. As an artist who merges futuristic creativity with social consciousness, every album, every performance, an invitation to reimagine what art and identity can look like. And this courage is echoed by Alicia Keys, who not only gave us timeless songs, but also challenged beauty standards by choosing to embrace her natural self in public settings, reminding fans that true beauty is authenticity. And authenticity also defines Shawn Mendes, whose journey from posting covers online to becoming a global star is a story of persistence, discipline, and humility. And these themes echo again in the journey of Camila Cabello, who transitioned from group stardom to solo artistry while using her platform for mental health advocacy and social causes. And together they represent how modern celebrities balance artistry with advocacy, creating holistic role models for their fans. And if we rewind to an earlier era, we cannot forget Whitney Houston, whose voice remains one of the greatest gifts to music. Her rise, her challenges, and her triumphs left behind a legacy that continues to inspire artists today. And that legacy connects to figures like Mariah Carey, whose vocal brilliance and resilience through ups and downs turned her into a symbol of survival and reinvention. And she, like Cher, reminds us that longevity in celebrity often comes down to adaptation and fearlessness. Cher has spanned decades with music, film, and activism, showing that reinvention is ageless and timeless. And as we admire longevity, we can look to Barbra Streisand, whose career has been defined not only by talent but also by control over her artistry, paving the way for women in entertainment to demand respect and autonomy. And autonomy is central to the path of Beyoncé once again, because her control over her narrative, her art, and her image sets a standard for ownership that inspires countless younger artists. And when we talk about standards, we must acknowledge Oprah once more, whose ability to turn interviews into transformational conversations changed the very definition of celebrity culture by making vulnerability mainstream and inspiring viewers to see themselves in the stories of others. And in that same space of inspiration sits Ellen Pompeo, whose long run on Grey's Anatomy turned her into a household name, but more importantly, gave her a platform to speak out on pay equality and representation in Hollywood, proving that television stars wield enormous influence beyond the screen. And speaking of television, we think of Bryan Cranston, whose transformation in Breaking Bad reminded the world that even late career reinventions can redefine legacies. His portrayal of Walter White became legendary and showed The power of patience, persistence, and believing in one's craft and his journey mirrors the unexpected rise of Pedro Pascal, who became a fan favorite through roles in Game of Thrones, Narcos, The Mandalorian, and The Last of Us. His charm, humility, and deep appreciation for fans made him one of the most beloved figures of this era. And that same fan-fueled love applies to Millie Bobby Brown, who turned her breakout in Stranger Things into a flourishing career in film, fashion, and philanthropy. All before adulthood, showing how the new generation of stars are carving paths earlier than ever. And alongside her, we see Florence Pugh, who quickly became a force in Hollywood with her raw talent and charisma while using her voice to advocate for authenticity and respect in the industry, proving that young stars today are not just performers. They are leaders shaping culture. And shaping culture is something Michael B. Jordan has excelled at, both through powerful roles in films like Creed and Black Panther, and through his commitment to representation and storytelling as a producer and director. He uses his growing influence to open doors for others. And that commitment reflects the ethos of Ava DuVernay, whose directing and activism reshaped Hollywood conversations about race justice and inclusion, reminding us that celebrities behind the camera can wield as much cultural power as those in front of it. And cultural power has long been embodied by icons like Steven Spielberg, Martin Scorsese, and George Lucas, whose films shaped entire generations and created worlds that became part of global imagination. And imagination itself is what fuels someone like Tim Burton, whose unique aesthetic turned him into a cultural force, inspiring countless artists to embrace their quirks and differences. And quirks are often what make celebrities so endearing to fans. Whether it's Tom Holland's youthful charm and clumsy interviews, or Ryan Reynolds' self-deprecating humor and witty social media presence. These glimpses of humanity remind audiences that beneath the fame, they are still people who laugh, stumble, and shine, just like the rest of us. And that is why figures like Sandra Bullock remain so beloved. Her combination of talent, warmth, and relatability makes her one of Hollywood's enduring treasures. And treasures of a different kind are found in sports icons like Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, whose rivalry transcends soccer to become a cultural saga, each inspiring millions through discipline, brilliance, and dedication. And their influence extends far beyond the pitch, inspiring young athletes to chase dreams while also showing the importance of resilience in the face of pressure. And their global stardom mirrors that of Naomi Osaka, who not only dominated tennis but bravely prioritized mental health, opening conversations that resonated far beyond sports. And her courage inspired others like Simone Biles, who, despite being the greatest gymnast of all time, chose to listen to her body and mind at the Olympics, showing the world that strength is not only about medals, but about self-care and dignity. And those choices make them role models in ways that will echo for generations.